You know what's wild? Right now, someone's walking into a Mitsubishi dealership, signing papers for a brand new Outlander, driving it home proud of their Japanese SUV. But here's what the salesperson didn't mention. That engine? German. The platform holding everything together? French. And get this, nearly 70% of what makes that car move didn't come from Mitsubishi at all. Now, before you think I'm exposing some scandal, I'm not. This is just Tuesday in the car industry. Almost every manufacturer you trust is doing this. Your Honda might have GM parts, your Toyota could be running on BMW tech. It's a global jigsaw puzzle, and the badge on the front is just the box art. So here's the real question. Does any of this actually matter? Because what I'm about to show you isn't just about Mitsubishi. It's about whether that brand you're loyal to, the one you've trusted for years, actually means what you think it means. And once you see how deep this goes, you'll start reading spec sheets instead of brochures. 1. The German heart. Let's start with what's probably the most surprising part. The engine. You know, the actual heart of the car. Pop the hood on certain Mitsubishi Outlander and Lancer models, especially the diesel version sold in Europe, and guess what you'll find? A Volkswagen engine. Yeah, you heard that right. Pure German engineering sitting there with a Mitsubishi badge on top. I'm talking about the famous 2.0 TDI diesel engine. This is the exact same power plant you'll find in a Volkswagen Golf, a Passat, an Audi A3, even a Skoda Octavia, word for word. Bolt for bolt. The same engine, and I mean literally the same. The engine block, the cylinder head, the turbocharger, the fuel injection system, all designed and manufactured to Volkswagen specifications. When you take your Mitsubishi to a mechanic and they pop that hood, they're looking at the same components they'd see in a German car. The same part numbers, the same service intervals, even the same common issues that Volkswagen owners deal with. Think about that for a second. You're paying for a Mitsubishi, but you're getting the exact same diesel technology that powers luxury German sedans. In some ways, that's actually pretty cool. This isn't some cheap knockoff or a similar design. It's the real deal. Now, Mitsubishi didn't do this because they couldn't make their own diesel. They absolutely could have. They'd been building engines for decades. But here's the thing. They did it because it's smart business. Why spend hundreds of millions, maybe even billions, developing a brand new diesel engine from scratch when Volkswagen already perfected one? This study engine is legendary in the diesel world. It's known for being efficient, powerful, and reliable. It's been tested for years across millions of vehicles in some of the toughest conditions imaginable. From German autobahns to European city traffic, this engine has proven itself over and over again. So when you're driving your Mitsubishi Outlander diesel, you're essentially experiencing the same mechanical foundation as someone driving an Audi A4. The torque that pushes you back in your seat, the fuel efficiency that keeps you going for miles on a single tank, even the distinctive diesel sound, it's all German Dina wrapped in Japanese design. Some people might feel a bit cheated by this. Like, wait, I bought a Mitsubishi, not a Volkswagen. But here's another way to look at it. You're getting proven German engineering without paying German car prices. You're getting all the benefits of that TDI technology, the low-end torque, the incredible fuel economy, the durability, but in a package that might cost you less than the equivalent Volkswagen or Audi. And here's the kicker. This isn't some weird exception or a one-time deal. It gets even more interesting. 2. The French connection. But wait, there's more, because Volkswagen isn't the only company sharing engines with Mitsubishi. Let's talk about another diesel engine, the 1.6 HDI. This one comes from SA Group, which is the French company behind Peugeot and Citroën. You'll find this engine in the Mitsubishi AS and some Lancer models. The same engine powers a Peugeot 308, a Citroën C4, and even certain Ford models. Again, completely identical. Same fuel injection system, same turbocharger, same everything. For Mitsubishi, this was a no-brainer. Why reinvent the wheel when the French already built a diesel engine that's perfect for small SUVs and compact cars? Low fuel consumption, low emissions, easy maintenance. Everything European customers want. But here's the really fascinating part. This engine-sharing deal wasn't just about saving money on development. It was also about meeting increasingly strict European emissions regulations. The EU has some of the toughest emissions standards in the world, and developing an engine that meets those standards while still being powerful and efficient? That's incredibly expensive and time-consuming. SA had already done all that work. They'd already spent years refining this engine to meet Euro 5 and Euro 6 emission standards. They'd already already figured out the perfect balance of performance and efficiency. So Mitsubishi basically got a shortcut to compliance with European regulations. But here's where things get really wild, because we're not just talking about engines anymore. The newest Mitsubishi models? They're running on something even more French. Real quick, if you're enjoying this deep dive into what really goes into these cars, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We post videos just like this about car care, Mitsubishi ownership tips, and all the stuff dealerships won't tell you. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what's coming next. Alright, let's keep going. 3. The modern shift. Here's where Mitsubishi's strategy completely changed. Because of the global alliance between Renault, Nissan, and Mitsubishi, newer models are basically French cars with a Japanese badge. Take the current Mitsubishi Asks and the Mitsubishi Colt. Under the hood, you're not getting Mitsubishi technology, you're getting Renault technology. Specifically, the 1.3 TC turbo engine and the 1.6 hybrid E-Tech system. These are the exact same engines and hybrid systems you'll find in a Renault Clio or Renault Captur. I mean identical. Same power output, same fuel economy numbers, same hybrid battery management system. The E-Tech hybrid, that's 100% Renault engineering. The way it switches between electric and gas, the transmission setup, the energy recovery, all designed in France, then slapped into a Mitsubishi. Now, is this bad? Not necessarily. Renault's hybrid system is actually pretty good. It's efficient, it meets strict European emission standards, and it works well in city driving. But it does raise an interesting question. If the engine is Renault, the hybrid system is Renault, and as we'll see in a minute, even the platform is Renault, what exactly makes it a Mitsubishi? Hold that thought. 4. The transmission truth. Let's shift gears and talk about, well, the gears. The transmission. You know that smooth CVT automatic transmission in your Outlander, Asks, Lancer, or Eclipse Cross? The one that gives you that seamless acceleration without the traditional gear shifts? That's not Mitsubishi either. It comes from a company called Jatco, which is one of the world's biggest transmission manufacturers. And here's the thing, Jatco is basically Nissan's transmission division. They supply transmissions primarily to Nissan vehicles. So that CVT in your Mitsubishi Outlander, it's the same transmission in a Nissan Qashqai, the same one in a Nissan X-Trail. Even the Nissan Altima uses this transmission. When you press the gas pedal and feel how the car accelerates, that driving experience is identical to what you'd feel in a Nissan. The way it manages engine RPMs, the way it responds to your throttle input, the way it handles highway cruising, all programmed and designed by Jatco for Nissan. And what about manual transmissions? Well, if you bought a newer Mitsubishi Colt or Asks with a stick shift, congrats, you're rowing through gears designed by Renault. The gear ratios, the clutch feel, the shift action, it's all from Renault's parts bin, the same gearbox they use in the Renault Clio and Renault Captur. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with this. Jatco makes good transmissions. They've been doing it for decades, but it's another piece of the puzzle showing you that modern Mitsubishis are basically assembled from other manufacturers' parts. 5. The platform revelation. Now we get to the really big stuff. The foundation, the platform. Think of a car's platform like the skeleton of the vehicle. It's the underlying structure that everything else bolts onto. The suspension, the body panels, the interior, everything. The new Mitsubishi Colt and Asks, they're built on Renault's CMF-B platform. This is the exact same platform used for the Renault Clio and Renault Captur. I'm not talking about similar, I'm talking about identical. The chassis dimensions, the suspension mounting points, the crash structure, the floor pan, it's all the same. When engineers designed where the seats would go, where the fuel tank would sit, how the suspension would attach, they did it once for Renault, and then Mitsubishi just used the same blueprint. So when you're sitting in your Mitsubishi Colt, you're literally sitting in a Renault Clio structure with different body panels and interior trim. But it gets even better. The Mitsubishi Outlander, their flagship SUV, their big seller, is built on Nissan's CMF CD platform, the same platform as the Nissan X-Trail. Again, we're talking about identical underpinnings. The wheelbase, the suspension geometry, the structural rigidity, all shared between the Outlander and X-Trail. Underneath those different body styles, they're essentially the same vehicle. This is the reality of the modern car industry. Mitsubishi doesn't develop these platforms from scratch anymore. They use what their alliance partners already created. It saves them billions in development costs. But here's what this means for you as a buyer. When you choose between an Outlander and an X-Trail, you're not choosing between two fundamentally different vehicles. You're choosing between two different interpretations of the same foundation. Different styling, different interior design, maybe slightly different tuning on the suspension and steering, but fundamentally, same car. 6. The electronics story. Now let's talk about the stuff you don't see. The electronics and computer systems that make modern cars work. You know that engine control unit that manages fuel injection and ignition timing? Or the ABS system that keeps you from skidding? Or the ESP stability control that keeps the car planted in corners? Mitsubishi doesn't make those either. They come from global suppliers like Bosch and Denso. These are the same companies supplying Toyota, Muyu, Mercedes, Volkswagen, basically everyone. The sensors that monitor your engine temperature, your wheel speed, your brake pressure, made by Bosch or Denso. The fuel injection system precisely spraying gas into your cylinders, Bosch or Denso. The computer that controls it all, again, Bosch or Denso. This is actually completely normal in the industry. No car manufacturer makes every single component themselves. It wouldn't make sense economically. These suppliers specialize in these systems. They make millions of units, and they're tested across every car brand you can think of. So the electronic foundation of your Mitsubishi is the same electronic foundation in a Mercedes, a Toyota, or a Ford. Different software calibrations? Sure, but the hardware? Identical. 7. What's actually Mitsubishi? Okay, so if the engine isn't Mitsubishi, the transmission isn't Mitsubishi, the platform isn't Mitsubishi, and the electronics aren't Mitsubishi, what is actually Mitsubishi? Fair question. Mitsubishi still develops and produces a few key technologies in-house. Their S-OC all-wheel drive system, for example, that's genuine Mitsubishi engineering. It's an advanced all-wheel drive setup that actively distributes power between wheels based on driving conditions. That's actually pretty impressive tech. They also pioneered and still lead in plug and hybrid SUV technology. The Outlander PHEV was one of the first plug-in hybrid SUVs on the market, and that system is mostly Mitsubishi's own development. And some of their naturally aspirated petrol engines, the ones not shared with Renault or others, are still designed and built by Mitsubishi. But let's be honest, those exceptions are becoming rarer. The trend is clear. Modern Mitsubishis are increasingly collaborative products, assembled from technologies developed by other manufacturers. 8. Is this a problem? So here's the million-dollar question. Should you care? Is it bad that your Mitsubishi has a Volkswagen engine, Renault platform, and Nissan transmission? Honestly, not really. Here's why. First, these are proven technologies. That Volkswagen diesel engine, it's been refined over decades in millions of vehicles. Same with Jatco's CV transmissions. These aren't experimental systems, they're battle-tested. Second, it actually makes cars more reliable and cheaper. When manufacturers share development costs, they can invest more in testing and refinement. And when something goes wrong, parts are easier to find because they're used across multiple brands. Third, this is literally how the entire industry works now. Toyota shares engines with BMW. Mercedes shares platforms with Renault. Honda uses transmissions from third-party suppliers. Nobody builds everything in-house anymore. The real difference between brands nowadays isn't who manufactures the parts. It's how they tune those parts, how they style the body, what driving experience they create, and what ownership experience they provide. 9. The reality check. But here's what bothers some people, and I get it. When you pay for a Mitsubishi, you expect Mitsubishi engineering. The brand built its reputation on tough, reliable vehicles that could handle anything. Think of the old Pajero conquering deserts, or the Lancer Evolution dominating rally racing. That engineering pride, that distinct identity, it feels diluted when you realize you're basically driving a rebadged Renault or Nissan. And there's something else. Value proposition. If a Mitsubishi Ask and a Renault Captur share the same engine, transmission, and platform, why would you pay differently for them? You're essentially paying for the badge and the styling at that point. This is the tricky part for Mitsubishi. They need to justify their existence in a market where their cars are increasingly similar to their alliance partners' vehicles. They need to give buyers a reason to choose them over a Nissan or Renault. Sometimes they do this through pricing, sometimes through different standard equipment, sometimes through warranty coverage or their SUV image. But the hard truth is, the more they share with alliance partners, the less distinct they become. Here's the thing though, this isn't just a Mitsubishi story. This is the story of the entire automotive industry. Car manufacturing has become so expensive and complex that almost nobody can afford to do it alone anymore. Emissions regulations, safety requirements, electrification mandates, the costs are astronomical. So manufacturers form alliances. They share platforms, engines, transmissions, electronics. They pool their resources to develop one good solution instead of each developing mediocre solutions separately. Volkswagen Group does it with Audi, Porsche, and Lamborghini. Stellantis does it with Peugeot, Fiat, and Jeep. Toyota does it with Mazda and Subaru. The Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance is just one example of this trend. And honestly, it's probably kept Mitsubishi alive. Without access to Renault's platforms and Nissan's technology, Mitsubishi might not exist anymore. So in a weird way, the fact that your Mitsubishi isn't fully a Mitsubishi is actually what allows it to be a Mitsubishi at all. So, fake Mitsubishi? Not exactly. It's more like a collaborative Mitsubishi. A Mitsubishi that exists in the modern reality of automotive manufacturing, where brands are increasingly defined by their design and character rather than who actually built each individual part. Your Outlander might have a Nissan platform and a Jatco transmission, but it's still designed to be a Mitsubishi, with their styling, their driving dynamics, their approach to practicality. Is that enough? Well, that depends on what you value, but at least now you know what you're really getting. And in the end, if it gets you from point A to point B reliably and you're happy with it, does it really matter whose name is on the engine block? If this opened your eyes, hit that like button and subscribe for more car truths. Drop a comment. Does this change how you see your Mitsubishi? Something to think about next time you turn the key.